Welcome back. It is always a good day when you wake up and you realize, all right, I'm here. What am I going to do today to make things better around me? Speak with gentle lips, hug the people we love, show kindness to a stranger, really to be in that moment. I'm really looking forward to today's show. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's going through a very unique situation. And I'll introduce Jesse in just a moment. I just want to say thank you. Oh my gosh, we are up to, let's see, last count, 18 countries. Singapore, Portugal is new, Mexico, India, Indonesia, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Norway, Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, Australia, and of course, the United States. Thank you for the downloads. Thank you for the follows on Facebook and Instagram, and the new YouTube channel is starting to grow. I am so very grateful that you agree with me that death is dinner conversation. Nothing to fear. It is somewhere that we are all going to eventually have to go ourselves. And it's just good to strip it down and pull away the fear of all of it. That being said, my friend Jesse Brisendine, Jesse's been on the show and he is an author, a speaker. He has an incredible TEDx talk. I'll put the link to that on the show notes. He's a positive entrepreneur and is super inspirational. Jesse just recently posted about a very close relationship that he has, a friend of his, a very young woman who is struggling with a very unique health situation. So I reached out and I said, what can I do? I have a platform and I can at least reach out to you. And if you hear this and you are so compelled and you want to help, we are very grateful for anything that you can do to help Amanda. So, Jesse, thank you for coming on the show and just opening up about what is happening right now.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you. I always look forward to our conversations and the space you hold, and I appreciate you making some space for me today.
Absolutely. Jesse, talk to me about what you're going through. This is just, you know, in life, we have these challenges and we have these daily occurrences that happen, and they really break us wide open because we realize how important the little things that are no longer little are the big things. And let's go there. Talk to me about Amanda, the journey she's on, and how the Next Room audience can possibly help.
Yeah, so Amanda has been we've been in and out of each other's lives for a number of years. We've gone through different iterations as friends, acquaintances, back to friends, and then several years ago we finally figured out, that we have the capacity to be more than friends, and she's been a life partner for the last number of years since. We have two cats together that are her fur babies, and we've been able to do a tremendous amount of life together, which has really been really a joy. Not that it hasn't been without its ups and downs as in any relationship. And she recently started to have some headaches. They came and she was describing it as it felt like she just needed to clear her ears. And so when she'd hold her nose to try to clear them, the headache would kind of just release. It didn't seem like anything major. And as these persisted, we attributed it to stress. The man had been under a lot of stress, some things going on in her life, and eventually she ended up going to the urgent care, and they said that they thought it might be stress related too, and prescribed her some meds to help with that. Eventually, what happened was she started to lose almost like her spatial relationship. So she was trying to write on a whiteboard she has, and then the pen kind of went all the way away from the whiteboard, and she thought, gosh, that's kind of strange, but then it came back so quickly. So again, dismissing. I think a lot of us are, I think of our culture, Jane, in the Western culture. You walk down the medicinal aisle of any grocery store, and for every pill or powder that is for nighttime relief, there will be a daytime one with the clever marketing of get through your day, power through, suppress your symptoms, ignore what you're doing, and go out there and just continue on. And so, that cultural normalization of that, it makes it really hard for, I think, us sometimes to look at these things a little closer and think, gosh, maybe something's going on. Eventually what happened was on May 19th, so a couple weeks ago of this recording, she had finished a hike and had gone to stand in line to get some groceries, and her felt like her right leg was going to buckle. So she went and sat down, kind of regained herself. She came home, was doing something back on the whiteboard, and then it started happening again. So she kind of went down to her all fours and was just sitting there for a minute and had this really strong sense that something was seriously wrong. A couple phone calls to some dear family and friends, and it kind of, you had mentioned earlier, Jane, breaking you wide open, and I heard her cry in a way I've never heard her cry before. It just, these sobs, because in her knowingness, she knew that something was really wrong. She came in and told me, I think we need to go to the ER. We went to the ER, and even to get in the front door, it was a real challenge because she was almost having a panic attack. And we've since talked about it because she said, I just knew that once I crossed that threshold, they were going to tell me something really awful, and my life was never going to be the same again. We were fortunate that the day we went into ER, it was a relatively slow time in the ER. She was able to be seen really quickly. We were waiting in the back for the doctor. He began performing a series of tests on her, and from my perspective, they looked like she was okay. So I'm trying to convince myself everything's fine. We're going to be out of here before too long. I walked into the ER with my book and my highlighter, thinking this is just going to be a casual thing and we'll be on our way. When he stood her up and had her do a simple test, which is akin to what you might see people do if they're doing the DUI test, where they're trying to walk heel to toe in a straight line. It was visibly challenging for her. Amanda's an athletic background. She danced for quite some time, so she's always had just impeccable balance. He then ordered a MRI and a CT scan. We were whisked to another part of the hospital and waited for those various tests to be performed and the results to come in. And the doctor came in, sat down, said, there's no really easy way to say this. This is the worst part of my job, but there's definitely a mass on your brain. It very well is likely some sort of glioma tumor. And we both looked at him and said, well, what does this mean? And he says, this means this is the start of a very long journey. Your life will never be the same. What she was later diagnosed as is she had a grade 4 glioblastoma tumor. It is, I don't even want to talk about the statistics behind it. You can Google it, and it'll show you all sorts of horrible and scary things. Uh, but it's as serious as it gets, and the the statistical the statistics do not give her much of a chance at a long time. But there's also a lot of outliers out there who are still going on, who have survived this for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and beyond. There's some who are decades into this. And so we are focusing all of our energy and attention to figure out, okay, what are these folks doing? What have they done? Are there common keys? Are there common factors? So I'll just share really quick, Jane, to kind of to tee up maybe where you and I are going to go with this conversation. The doctor left us after that initial conversation, and and we were both sitting there shaking. I felt like I was going to both throw up and kind of defecate myself. Your physiology is just, as you're experiencing one of these most horrific and horrifying moments of your life, looking at this person that you love so much and seeing the fear on their face. And we both kind of sat with that for a minute, and then I started saying, okay, well, what are some of the goals we have? What do we want to accomplish in the next 2 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? Trying to shift from a unresourceful place, which it's honoring. I think I want to be really clear. It is so important that we honor emotions that come up, right? Because that is a very, very real thing. But what does not serve us is to stew and stay in that emotion, right? Culturally, we have this horrible habit of forming identity around what we feel, as opposed to just honoring it as a feeling and then looking at it and saying, okay, here's what I felt. Here's what I'm feeling. Now, this next moment, while this is something really scary and just life changing, what is it that I can control right now? Because I cannot control this diagnosis. And what we decided is we could control her prognosis. We can accept the diagnosis. Amanda was very clear. I can accept the diagnosis, but I don't have to accept the limitations of the prognosis. And for the last now, 2.5 weeks, Jane, since you and since this all first started. That's how we've chosen to really face this head on. Amanda has since had two brain surgeries. She had a initial biopsy to confirm what was going on, and then she had a full, I think it's called a craniectomy or craniotomy in San Francisco last week, where they basically went in and were able to surgically attack this tumor. She's now, as you and I are talking, in a rehabilitation facility where she is learning to, working to regain control of her right arm and her right hand, which she's not able to use very much now, learning how to walk again, learning how to go up and down a flight of stairs, and trying to working to reclaim some of the cognitive deficit she has. It's been a really fascinating thing because she could, for example, tell you what her address is, but getting that to process down to her hand to get her hand to create that just doesn't happen. And as much as we have is as alarming as that contrast is, this person who was just hiking 5 miles 2 weeks before now trying to walk in a straight line. I'll tell you, Jane, first of all, I've never been so in awe of another human being as I've been in awe of watching Amanda in this journey. She has not said one ill word. She has not complained once. She has not gotten angry once. We were talking the morning before the big surgery, and I was saying I had decided I no longer wanted to call this, any of the tumor, cancer, anything like that. And I was saying, Amanda, I feel like you're just getting ready to evict this unwanted tenant. It's this unwanted guest you're going to send off. And she looked at me and she said, I realize that even with this, I have to send it off with love because it is in some way a part of me. Right. And I'm thinking, Jane, I feel like I'm fairly awake and fairly conscious. And when she said that, so me thinking, in my infinite ignorance at the time, thinking that I was choosing such a higher perspective on this of just sending it out as an eviction. But boy, when she said that, it really blew my mind. It really stopped me to get me to thinking, saying, "Gosh!" And so now that's kind of this is we've made it over that first hurdle, but we fully appreciate this is a very long journey ahead. There was the first surgeon she had said, with this particular kind of cancer, it's never something that from a medical standpoint, you win. It's a battle you always keep fighting. And the more angles that you can throw at it, the more angles you can come at it, the more you can kind of work with it to see what you can do. And I feel like in the last few weeks, we've started to assemble this army of just incredible humans that are coming together, wanting to help, offering prayers, love, support, their expertise. You're a perfect example, Jane. I don't even think that post was up a day before you had reached out to me and just said, "Hey, let's get you on here. Let's share this story and see if that can help." And it's that kind of love and support that has been so incredible to see. I was telling one of my good friends about this earlier today. One of the most remarkable things of this whole experience has been I'm not of the illusion that nobody has Googled what is going on and what the statistics are, right? I understand everybody's probably done that just for their own clarity. And 98.9% of the people who are jumping into this thing, they're not even living in that fear place. They are jumping in from love. They are jumping in with hope. They are jumping in with certainty. They are jumping in for the long haul. And it's one of the more remarkable things I've ever seen. And really, if not the most remarkable thing I've ever seen, not just how Amanda's going through this, but the way people are kind of assembling behind it and doing it from such a place of love and certainty about, no, you will not be the statistic. You will be the one that will screw up the statistics for years to come. And so 10 years from now, when people have this diagnosis and the doctor goes and has to give them bad news, they can now sit there and look at a patient and say, it used to be this was the average, but since then, so many people have begun to implement these things that this is the average and give people that hope and hopefully shine a path to what we do and what it works for us and what it can come. And then hopefully a path that others can follow too in their hard times.
Wow. Uh, Thank you for the transparency and for being so succinct in explaining this journey. A couple things. You posted about this, and it was really loving the way that you handled it. And in the course of this long post, you said, please do not post anything scary or the statistics. This is a place for love and hope and support. And so you, right at the get-go, put the bar up. You put the bar up. You told everyone in your path and Amanda's path and your family and your friends and all the people that you have collectively known what you needed. You asked for something. And I think that's a very, very, very
Mm,
key point. Um, Man, no regrets, just grace. She's handling this situation with grace. Um, and it is, I love I was going to ask you about the diagnosis versus the prognosis. That was a really nice way that you pulled that apart. Just because you're told something, does that really make it true? Um, we're incredible beings, right? We have this
yes.
enormous capacity to shift our thoughts and our focus and create a different reality almost if we really focus in that regard. And likewise, she's also like, I love what you said about, you're not trying to diminish what she's going through, but you don't have to live in that space. You can pivot out of that and decide, let's change this narrative. I mean, I just feel hope is one of the most important parts of any journey, especially with someone with some kind of dis-ease. Um, wow. Jesse, this is amazing. Okay, so let's take it from there. So now you have all of this support. There is a GoFundMe page, which I will put the link up. And people can read about this extraordinary woman who is not complaining and not fighting or battling, but truly the fact that she said it's part of me and I want to send it away with love. Wow. Woo. She's my kind of gal. That is,
Yeah.
that is, no, those, I'm so attracted to that type of energy. Okay. So, what can we do collectively other than what you've already previously mentioned? Is there anything that you need right now?
What we are, thank you for asking that, Jane. And what we're in that phase of right now is really going into information gathering, and information gathering specifically on what are, what do people who have had experiences or know people who have had experience with this particular type of, and thank you for the reminder, dis-ease. What have been their experiences? What have they known works? Where are the resources? And what's super helpful with this, and I learned this early on, the amount of information coming in is more than I can possibly, download at any given time. I read decently fast. I have a fairly, high, I can comprehend things relatively quickly, but just the amount coming in. So what's really especially helpful is if people want to share resources, share information, is to almost put it in bullet points, kind of like an executive summary. And if you have a book that you think is really great, what are the key takeaways from it that you've read? What are some of the highlights? If you have a podcast that really, really touched you, what were some of the key takeaways? What are some of the key highlights? And it helps me then discern what are the key things with it. Is it matching up to some other things? And then with that extra time, I can dive a little bit deeper in everything, because what I'm finding really quickly is there are so many incredible people out there, and there are so many wonderful people who want to help and sharing some great resources. And each person, as you and I both know, Jane, we all have such unique experiences in our journeys through here. And we really do want to explore any and all options to kind of throw at this and see, especially, and I should give that caveat with that. Any and all options that are aligned with an Amanda. What I mean by that, you had mentioned earlier about us kind of being cracked open. And it's almost cliche to say it, but the analogy is very appropriate here. It is like Amanda has emerged from the cocoon and she's the butterfly now. And in that, she is operating from a different plane of just knowingness that I have dabbled in, but have never quite been able to connect to in the way she is now. In psychology, they always talk about how important beliefs are. Beliefs drive behaviors, and beliefs are the kind of the crux of this, what makes up our model of the world. But she's at this different thing of just knowingness, and that knowingness is, so what I ultimately want to do is I want to be able to help assimilate as much information as possible, be able to present it from her so she can check in and see what's aligned with her. And I also want to say this too. We're I am so, James, so, oh my God, I'm so grateful for Western medicine. Going through these last few weeks, and I think sometimes Western medicine, because of the system, gets a bad rap. But I have been now in what, one, two, four, five different hospitals in the last 2 weeks. I've seen and experienced nothing but caring individuals who are passionate about the work they do, who, because of them, we were able to go from getting this image to getting not one, but two different surgeries with two different surgeons in two different cities in a week's time. And then being able to get her moved to a facility where she has just incredible care and incredible people around. And so I am so, so grateful for Western medicine. We want to continue to explore Western medicine, but we also want to pair it with these other things that maybe aren't adopted, right? Because what I think you and I can both agree on, Jane, just from our conversations we've had over the years, is that we can respect that there is a certain amount of knowing, right? We can respect that. And we can also respect that there's a certain amount of unknowing. And in that space in between is this incredible gray area that we just don't understand enough about the wonders of ourselves. I think the energetic connection that we all have, the call it the power of the universe, anything and everything in between, and what kind of magic can be created with that. So when we pair these things and we explore them as fully as we want to, I think that there's the potential for something really incredible there. So to answer your question, people sharing information is fantastic. Resources they had, just sharing it in a condensed way, bullet points are really helpful. Attaching the links to, books, podcasts, articles, all those things with that, that's super, super helpful. And then also, the thing that's really been meaningful, Jane, is, gosh, the if people have platforms and they'd like me to come talk about this on there, happy to do that. But the thing that has been extraordinarily helpful is just the sheer amount of people who have been coming in and dropping these loving words of encouragement, sending prayers, sending well wishes, but sending it from such a loving and pure place. And uh, I was telling somebody this the other day. For the last, gosh, 13 years, I've been fairly active on social media, building a platform, engaging on that type of stuff. Being so immersed in this world the last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to be on social media as much, so no, just mindless scrolling. I certainly haven't had time to look up at any current events of what's going on, of which, that's usually just the same political recycling every day. And instead, the world I have lived in has been this world just of people loving people, whether it's a friend, it's a family member, or somebody who's a complete stranger who, for whatever reason, their story just spoke to them. And man, I don't care what the news or the media tries to portray. Humans are really effing incredible, and they are really, really extraordinary. And when the when the chips are down, or whatever it is, there is something innately special inside of us that just compels us to almost tap into a gear that we may not even realize. And it compels us to just share again from the most pure and loving place. Because you can get that sense, right? When somebody types something on the keyboard, you kind of get a sense of what energy almost that's coming from. And it's been extraordinary, Jane. It has been absolutely extraordinary. It has been extraordinary to feel it. It has been extraordinary to receive it. It has been extraordinary to watch it unfold. And I, I'm sometimes, you had mentioned at the beginning, I earn a portion of my income from speaking, and I find myself often at a loss of words and just in complete awe of the humanity on display through this whole thing.
Mm. I feel that man, you were put here for so many reasons. You're just you're just such a loving, kind, compassionate man. And what keeps going through my head is you were tapped for this particular moment in time. This is something, and do we plan on these events happening? Of course not. Can we control them? I don't know. I don't think
Mm,
so. Random things do happen. People say there is nothing random on the planet, there is no such thing as coincidence, but there are events that occur in our lives that allow us to rise up, to be stronger, to be more eloquent. And this last quick half hour with you has shown me that yet again, Jesse Brisendine is growing from something that could arguably be very difficult and very sad, but you're not allowing that to come in. You're like, all right, what are we going to do about this? Um, what a beautiful share that you just had with me. I will post everything. I will put the link in there. Please continue to keep us posted on Amanda's journey. I was smiling ear to ear when I saw that beautiful woman. You did a little video, and she has this gorgeous dimple, and she is filled with light and love, and
Yeah,
with just the most horrific news you could probably get handed at such a young age. And she's like, all right, what am I going to do about it? um, I'm going to send it love and send it away with love.
yeah,
So let's change that prognosis, right, to
yes.
a very positive outcome. And let me give you the final words in the closing of the show today.
What comes to me, Jane, is Amanda was sharing with me the other day that one of the psychologists that's part of her rehabilitation program had come to her and was asking, what do you want to do with the time you have left? And he was asking it from that place of the prognosis, right? Looking at it, that there's a small window and wanted to make sure that she really understood the gravity of everything. And Amanda and I were talking about it afterwards, and we can respect that there's these parameters that have to be in place for that framework, right? But then what we ultimately came to is, gosh, we should all be asking ourselves that question every day. We should have been asking, this was a thing that should have been taught in school from the time we were first able to comprehend language, right? Imagine if you had been raised your entire life, because I've been thinking about this, Jane. If I had been raised my entire life with my parents asking me, what do you want to do with the time you have left? If the lesson my and when I went to school and when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, what do you want to do with your time you have left? If every year on my birthday I was asked the question, what do you want to do with the time you have left? If I asked myself that question before I went to sleep at night, and that was what my unconscious mind marinated on as I drifted off to sleep, what do you want to do with the time you have left? Whew, because I would really strongly argue the point that I think most of our suffering and dysfunction comes with the assumption that we're always going to have tomorrow to change something, that we will always have tomorrow to do things differently, to live life differently, to pursue the relationship that we want to pursue, the career that we want to pursue, the inner peace that we want to travel and explore and do those things. But what would it be like, Jane? What would you what do you want to do with the time you have left? If that was just the question. And so I would leave everybody with this. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Jane, so much for always being so generous with sharing your platform and being just such a incredible resource and a warrior in the corner for us. It is just I cannot the gratitude I have in my heart for you, Jane, is really indescribable. And I would just encourage everybody to really sit with this question of what do you want to do with your time you have left? Maybe sit down with your friends, your family members, have a discussion around the dinner table tonight and ask that question. What do you want to do with your time you have left? And honor those answers, because time is not infinite, it is finite. But what I'm really realizing is that when you really embrace the finiteness of time, you create this space for the infinite. And that's really, I think, the magic of life.
Wow. Oof, I have goosebumps. Okay. You just gave me the name for the show. It's What Do You Want to Do with the Time You Have Left?
Mm,
Jesse Brisendine and beautiful Amanda. Please let her know that I am putting her at the top of my prayer list, and we're spreading this out to the 18 countries that download and listen to the show. Show grows every week. So just think what we could collectively do if we all bring her into our consciousness and send her just healing light and love. That is my request from the audience. Jesse, thank you for taking the time. Please let Amanda know that I've got her. I've got her right here. Even though I've never met her, it doesn't matter. I feel like I know her. Thank
yeah.
you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks again for listening to The Next Room. It is a conversation where death is dinner conversation. And like Jesse just said, what a great thing to do. Gather your family and your friends around the table. And we always like to tell tidbits, throw that out as a question. What is it you want to do with the time that you have left? That is absolutely such an important question. Thank you to my guest, Jesse Brisendine. I will post all the links. There is a GoFundMe for Amanda for her journey, and also Jesse's information. And please keep both of them in your prayers and her family as well. Thank you for tuning in today.